During what was supposed to be a conversation about the future of women's basketball, Napheesa Collier used her platform to make an unsettling pivot. Instead of celebrating the WNBA's rapid rise, driven in large part by Caitlin Clark's electrifying debut, she doubled down on criticisms of the league, championing her startup, Unrivaled, as a better model. It was a strategic swipe that didn't go unnoticed. As the league's union vice president, Collier is expected to protect player interests, not publicly undermine the institution she represents. But her words suggested something more calculated, a business move dressed up as advocacy. The fallout from Collier's remarks reveals just how fragile the balance of leadership in women's basketball really is. Her attempt to redirect praise away from Clark and toward her own venture wasn't just...
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
Poorly timed. It spotlighted a dangerous conflict of interest. While Clark's success offers the league a rare opportunity to expand its fan base and financial reach, Collier's actions threaten to fracture its foundation. The growing tension between union and league leadership, sparked by this controversy, could lead to a lockout and stall years of hard-fought progress. At the very moment when unity is crucial, Collier may have set off a ripple effect with long-term consequences. You're watching a live interview, and it's going downhill fast. Napheesa Collier, one of the WNBA's brightest talents and also the vice president of the Players Union, is sitting across from a host who isn't pulling punches. She's here to talk about women's basketball, but the conversation isn't going the way she expected. What starts as a discussion about player empowerment quickly turns into a public unraveling of contradictions. Collier begins by criticizing the WNBA, claiming it should look to her new league, Unrivaled, as the future model. The host counters, calmly, but with receipts. Attendance records, viewership spikes, sponsorships, jersey sales. All the momentum, they say, is happening inside the WNBA. And most of it tied directly to one name, Caitlin Clark. The interview turns tense. The host mentions that Clark, a rookie, is outdrawing entire NBA teams in certain markets. She's breaking records, making headlines, and pulling in fans who've never watched a WNBA game in their lives. Her debut season has turned into a cultural moment, and her jersey is flying off shelves. Collier nods politely but deflects. She insists the league is still structurally broken, that salaries are too low, that leadership isn't moving fast enough. But instead of offering solutions within the WNBA, she pivots, again, to Unrivaled. This isn't just another league, she says. It's the answer, a smaller, more player-first experience. Yet no one seems to be asking for it. Meanwhile, Clark's been speaking out, graciously, but with clarity. She acknowledges the challenges within the league, but she also praises its recent growth. She thanks the fans, the veterans, and the leadership for helping create this moment. She wants to build on what's working, not burn it down. And that contrast couldn't be sharper. Where Clark sees opportunity, Collier sees failure. Where Clark sees unity, Collier projects division. And it's not just a difference of opinion. It's a matter of conflicting interests. Because while Collier holds a leadership role in the WNBA, she also co-founded a rival league. That's not just awkward. That's a direct conflict of it. Look at the numbers. Fever games are selling out. Broadcasts are pulling in millions. Fans are flying across the country to see Caitlin Clark play. And it's not just hype, it's translating into real gains. The league has never seen this kind of mainstream momentum. Yet Collier seems dismissive. Her comments downplay Clark's influence and question the league's direction at the exact moment it's thriving. Viewers watching the interview start asking the same question. Is this really about bettering the league or building her own? Then the commissioner gets brought into the conversation. Cathy Engelbert, the face of league leadership, has been open about the WNBA strategy, investing in visibility, growing partnerships, expanding teams. It's not perfect, but it's progress. And that's where the real tension starts to boil. Collier's criticism is no longer just about systems. It becomes personal. She accuses Engelbert of holding back progress, of ignoring player voices. But it's hard to separate these claims from the timing and the business angle. It feels less like advocacy and more like a hostile takeover. Unrivaled, Collier's new league doesn't hide its ambition. It promises shorter seasons, higher pay, and more creative control. But right now, it's a blip. Limited media coverage, small gym streams, modest followings. Nothing close to the spotlight Clark has brought to the WNBA. That's what makes Collier's strategy so obvious. By undermining the WNBA during its most successful stretch in years, she positions her league as the alternative. Less noise, more control. It's smart business if you're okay with burning bridges to get there. Critics are quick to call it what it is: sabotage. You can't serve as vice president of the players' union while simultaneously trying to poach the league's momentum for your own project. That's not advocacy. That's opportunism. And it's not just outside voices calling her out. Even some within the league are reportedly uncomfortable. When players are trying to negotiate salaries, brand deals, and future contracts, they need a union that works with the league, not against it for personal. Clark's presence should be a rallying point. Her games are an event. She's brought new fans to the sport and reminded the media that women's basketball isn't just worth watching, it's worth investing in. That's not just good for her. It's good for everyone. But instead of celebrating that success, Collier is poking holes in it, dismissing the visibility, challenging the leadership, downplaying the cultural shift. She's trying to reframe a breakout year as evidence of failure. And the timing isn't subtle. It's right as Unrivaled begins to roll out. The rollout, by the way, hasn't been smooth. While Unrivaled claims to be groundbreaking, its launches lack the polish and reach needed to compete. Fans aren't migrating in droves. Sponsors aren't lining up. And in an era where stars like Clark can generate millions in earned media, Unrivaled feels more like a boutique side project than the future of women's hoops. So why undercut the WNBA? Why now? The answer is leverage. By creating drama and division, Collier raises the perceived value of her own venture. But what cost? Undermining the league's credibility during a growth period risks alienating fans, investors, and players who've worked years to get to this point. And the league isn't staying quiet. Engelbert has pushed back, calling for unity and transparency. But the relationship between the league office and the union is clearly strained. Collier's dual roles have made collaboration nearly impossible. If things don't improve, the risk is real, a lockout that could jeopardize the 2026 season. Not because of poor performance or fan disinterest, but because of leadership gridlock fueled by personal agendas. That's not just bad optics. Clark hasn't responded to Collier directly, but she doesn't have to. Her focus stays on the game, and it shows. Every time she steps on the court, she delivers numbers and moments that make headlines. She's not distracted by politics or side leaks. She's too busy breaking records. Fans notice the difference. While Collier is doing media circuits to push Unrivaled, Clark is selling out arenas and lifting an entire franchise. People don't just see her as a rookie anymore. They see her as the face of the league. That spotlight didn't come from marketing. It came from results. Collier, though, has positioned herself in a role that's hard to defend. It's one thing to advocate for better pay. It's another to discredit the very system you're part of, especially when you're leading its union. That's where the outrage is coming from. Not because she's speaking out, but because she's playing both sides. The tension is more than just uncomfortable. It's unsustainable. You can't effectively negotiate on behalf of players while promoting a competitor. It muddies the entire process. And when negotiations stall or fail, who takes the blame? The league? The union? Or the person doing both? Unrivaled strategy seems built on disruption. It doesn't want to complement the WNBA. It wants to challenge it. But to do that, it needs credibility. It needs fans, attention, media deals. And right now, it's not getting any of that organically. So the next best thing? Undermine the WNBA and hope the audience follows the chaos. It's the kind of gamble that rarely pays off. Disruption without scale usually just causes confusion. And if Collier's plan is to destabilize the WNBA so her venture looks stronger by comparison, the long-term damage could be devastating. Not just to one league, but to the sport's public. Clark's momentum isn't a trend, it's a turning point. She's proved that a women's basketball player can dominate not just in talent, but in cultural relevance. She's on commercials, late-night interviews, social feeds. She's crossed into mainstream consciousness. This is what fans have been asking for, a league that celebrates and elevates its stars. A league that finally has the attention it deserves. And just as that spotlight lands, someone from inside the house tries to flip the switch off. It's hard to overstate how disruptive that is. Engelbert's position hasn't been easy. She spent the last few years trying to get the league to this point, investing in charter flights, new teams, higher visibility. It hasn't all been smooth, but the results are finally showing. Now, just when that work starts to pay off, she's being called out by someone who should be helping build, not break, momentum. And it's not a subtle critique. It's loud, strategic, and clearly designed to shake confidence in league leadership. The problem is it also shakes confidence in the league itself. When Clark gets asked about her impact, she downplays the pressure and credits her teammates. But she also talks about growth, investment, and unity. She's not trying to hijack the league. She's trying to elevate it. And fans respect that. That authenticity is powerful. It stands in direct contrast to Collier's calculated interviews and league comparisons. One feels honest, the other feels corporate. And in a sport that's finally breaking through mainstream barriers, that difference matters. Collier may not see it as sabotage, but others do. Her public comments don't just criticize policies. They challenge the very legitimacy of the WNBA's recent success. She wants to remake the ecosystem, not improve it. That distinction is becoming clearer every day. Her dual role as union VP and league owner creates unavoidable questions. When players voice concerns, are those concerns for the betterment of the WNBA or for the positioning of unrivaled? That gray area undermines trust. And without trust, union strength. The irony in all of this is that Clark's rise could have been the ultimate unifier. She brought in a new generation of fans, people who never cared about the WNBA before. She brought networks, sponsors, attention. But instead of seizing the moment as a shared win, Collier chose to compete with it. Not on the court, but in public perception. And that move could fracture everything. When fans feel tension between leadership, they tune out. And right now, people are watching. Clark keeps proving why she's the new cornerstone. She's not asking for extra attention. It's following her. Her numbers justify it. Her presence expands it. But instead of leveraging that star power to boost everyone, Collier is trying to redirect the spotlight. Clark hasn't engaged in the back and forth. She doesn't have to. Her game speaks. Her numbers speak. Her fans speak. And all of them are saying the same thing. Keep building. Don't blow this moment on politics but politics and ego might be exactly what's driving this storm. Unrivaled was supposed to be a safe space for athletes. A fresh alternative. But when it becomes a tool for tearing down the current system, it loses that credibility. What started as innovation now looks like sabotage. And when the loudest criticism of the WNBA is coming from inside its own leadership, fans start to wonder what's really going on. Is this about better basketball or just better branding? When Cathy Engelbert stepped into the role of commissioner, she inherited a league with potential, but not much leverage. Since then, she's helped broker new media deals, increased player visibility, and brought in record-breaking sponsors. And for the first time in years, the WNBA isn't begging for attention, it's commanding it. Now she's under fire from her own union leadership. But Engelbert's approach has been consistent. Transparency, collaboration, and data-backed growth. She's been blunt about finances and cautious about overspending, especially in a league that still faces revenue challenges. But Collier's critique ignores all of that. It paints Engelbert as the problem, not a key part of the solution. Meanwhile, Clark has been a walking billboard for why the WNBA works when the pieces come together. The cameras love her, the fans adore her, and the stats back her up. She's not part of some long-term marketing scheme. She is the story. Her presence makes the league more bankable. When she sits down for interviews, the questions always go bigger than basketball. They want to know how she handles the pressure, how she sees her role in changing the game. And every time, she brings it back to team, league, and fans. That humility adds credibility. She's not trying to act like the savior. She's just showing what's possible when a player and league grows. Unrivaled can't compete with that right now. Its model is boutique, not scalable. The games aren't televised nationally. The venues are tiny. The buzz isn't organic. It's mostly driven by the names behind it, like Collier. And even then, it hasn't sparked a movement. The numbers aren't there. The culture shift isn't happening. And the worst part? Instead of waiting for Unrivaled to prove itself, Collier is trying to destabilize the WNBA before her league even launches at scale. That doesn't read as progress. It reads as sabotage. Collier insists she's doing this for the players. But players are already benefiting from Clark's presence, Engelbert's investment, and the league's new trajectory. The tension isn't about needing change. It's about who gets credit for driving it. And when ego gets louder than unity, the entire league suffers. She's burned credibility in a moment where leadership is everything. Fans don't want division. Players don't want internal wars. Sponsors don't want instability. What they want is alignment. But Collier's current role doesn't allow for that. Not when she's pulling in two. Clark is on track to have one of the most impactful rookie seasons in league history. Every sold-out crowd, every buzzer beater, every primetime highlight reinforces the message. People are watching. And more importantly, they care. That's the kind of leverage the league has never had before. And it didn't come from a top-down overhaul or a new private league. It came from letting players like Clark thrive in the WNBA spotlight. That organic growth is fragile. Undermining it with internal conflict doesn't just risk it, it might shatter. Clark doesn't speak in coded press statements or cryptic jabs. She's clear. She wants better pay, yes. Better travel, absolutely. But she also believes in the system that's finally starting to work. That's what makes her so appealing. Not just her game, but her message. She's not trying to control the narrative. She's part of it. And she's elevating it with every play, every interview, every packed stadium. She's shown that change can happen through visibility and performance, not just through criticism. Unrivaled's entire pitch relies on the assumption that the WNBA can't get it right. But that argument gets weaker every day. Clark suits up and the cameras roll. It's not that there's no room for another league, but undermining one to build the other isn't innovation. It's cannibalism. There's also a bigger issue. Fans aren't buying into Unrivaled's mission because it doesn't feel like it's for them. It feels like a workaround for players frustrated with progress speed. But progress is happening. It's just not being acknowledged by the ones trying to replace it. Engelbert has stayed the course. While chaos swirls online and in the press, she's continued focusing on long-term league stability. But the internal tension makes that harder. Every time she proposes a new initiative, Collier's public comments cut into it. How can fans and sponsors believe in the league when one of its top players and union leaders is simultaneously questioning its relevance? That kind of division slows everything down. And worse, it gives critics. The irony is brutal. Clark is out there turning casual fans into diehards. Young girls are showing up in her jersey. Broadcasters are covering her with prime real estate. The whole sport is shifting. But instead of rallying around it, Collier is creating doubt. She's telling the public, this isn't real. This won't last. We can do it better somewhere else. Whether she realizes it or not, that message directly competes with what Clark is building, and fans are picking up on it. Collier's intentions might have started out noble, but right now, her actions are causing real harm. She's sowing distrust at a time when the league needs collective power. The dual loyalty, union leader and rival league co-founder, isn't sustainable. Eventually, she'll have to choose. Because this balancing act isn't just failing, it's fracturing the very foundation she claims to care about. Players deserve advocates who fight for them without strings attached. Right now, that's not what they have. Caitlin Clark hasn't changed her message. She wants women's basketball to thrive. She wants more investment, more media, more resources. But she wants it within the WNBA, the league that gave her the stage, the league that's finally catching up to the moment. She's not claiming to fix everything overnight, but she's proof that when talent meets opportunity, the whole sport rises. She's been gracious in the spotlight, never trying to throw other players under the bus. And that's why fans trust her. She's not just pushing her brand. She's lifting the... And yet, Unrivaled keeps positioning itself as the savior. But if it was confident in its model, it wouldn't need to tear down the WNBA to prove its value. That's the part that's not sitting right with fans. The timing, the rhetoric, the direct shots at the league. It all feels too calculated. Instead of being an addition to women's basketball, it's behaving like a threat to its biggest success story in decades. If your business plan involves destabilizing a league that's finally gaining ground, then maybe the business model isn't as disruptive as you think. It's just destructive. Collier still has time to change course. She could step away from the union role, refocus Unrivaled as an off-season complement, and help rebuild trust. But that would require acknowledging the conflict, and so far, she hasn't done that. The longer this goes unresolved, the more damage it does. The 2026 season is already at risk of being consumed by labor strife and PR chaos. And if that happens, the league won't just lose momentum. It could lose the fans and partners who finally started paying attention. Engelbert's job isn't easy, but it's necessary. She has to keep the league stable while navigating egos, business ventures, and public perception. If she bends too much to internal pressure, it weakens leadership. If she pushes back too hard, it feeds the chaos. But fans aren't confused. They see the growth. They see the games, the headlines, the ticket sales, and they know what's at stake. This isn't the time for division. It's the time to double down on what's working and silence the noise that's only here to benefit itself. If you're with the fans who want to see this league keep winning without the sabotage, make sure you're tapped in. Hit like if you're backing Clark and the W. Drop a comment if you're tired of the drama. And share this with someone who needs to see the bigger picture. Subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Because this isn't over. Not even close.